Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. Thank you for joining me today. I have another easy layout for you. This one is a little different, but we're still going to use some scraps. And this time in particular, we're going to use one 3 3/4 inch by 3 3/4 inch piece of pattern paper. That's right. We're going to use a square. 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And we're going to cut that into 2 triangles. So I just call this the 3 3/4 inch triangle card layout. That's just for me to help me remember what I am doing when I look through my notes. So here are some samples. And here's one. And as you can see, there are 2 triangles that I made simply by cutting a 3 3/4 inch square in half. And then I adhered the triangles to the corners of a piece of cardstock that is like a first mat layer, 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Then I popped these triangles up on some dimensionals, and there you have it. As you can see, I have a stamped greeting right there in the middle. And then on the inside, I just put another sentiment and a piece of this pattern paper. Now, these 3 cards here, on my corresponding blog post, you will see they have a different look. I got to looking at them and I thought, oh, they need a little something. For example, this card is the square that was cut into triangles, and I put it on the 5 1/4 by 4 inch mat. I had stamped the happy birthday in red, and I had added these little nuts and bolts embellishments, and it just lacked. So I thought, oh, along the edges of the triangle, let's put a strip of cardstock. So I chose red. And I thought that really set it off. So I will show you how to do that. But you do not need those strips. As you can see on this one, I did not put the strips. I did on this one, right here. And here it is. It just says hello. Instead of stamping a greeting, I just used a die cut one that I stacked. I cut out about 4 of them and adhered them together. Now, as you can see, I do not have a mat layer there. I adhered these pieces directly to the card base. And all you have to do is get a border along the side and the bottom, or the side and the top, that is equal, just as though you were laying on a mat layer that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So there's that. And then on the inside, I took a smaller square. I think this is a 2 1/2 inch square, cut it diagonally and put it in the corners, and there's still plenty of room to write a little hello note. And then here's one that I have, instead of using a white mat, I've used a lighter shade of blue. The die cut greeting is stacked, but it's also on dimensionals. I just wanted it to have a little more lift. I did use the strips of cardstock here and a few embellishments. As you can see, I stamped the trees. I stamped the images in the space here to kind of fill in some of the blank areas. And then inside, I did use a piece of that pattern paper. Now this card, we're going to put together one similar to this one today. I've stamped images in the center there, and as you can see, I do not have the little strips of cardstock. I do have a greeting that's popped up on some dimensionals, and I cut this planet from some pattern paper. So that, when you can use your pattern paper, use your pattern paper. And of course, I have my 3 3/4 inch scrap that I cut into a square and cut diagonally. And then on the inside, another strip of that pattern paper. So let's take a peek at how I did this, and I'll show you how to cut these excuse me, these strips, and how to put them on. The best way to do it is before you put your triangles on the card, but if you make your card and decide it needs the strips, I'll show you how to do that too. So let's start with what we need. Of course, we're going to need a piece of pattern paper that is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. We're going to need a paper trimmer. And excuse me, my throat is really having issues today. We have a lot of stuff in the air, pollens, dust and dander, all that kind of stuff, and it's just been kind of icky. And so you can tell that from my throat. But anyway, for this card, we also need a card base. It's just an A2 card base, but for this one, I'm going to use one that is 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches, scored at 5 1/2, and of course folded, and I run my bone folder across that fold. And then I have a piece, this green, that's 4 by 5 1/4 for our matte layer. And I have the inside all ready to go. And like I said, I have the planet and the greeting ready to go. So the first thing we want to do is put our paper corner to corner, one corner in the little cutting tray right here, the other corner in the cutting tray. Then I'm going to move my blade so it's somewhere between the two corners. Push up to cut and come down. That keeps your corners nice and crisp. And that's all the cutting we need to do for that. And now we're going to bring in our paper. And this is what we want to end up with. We want to have that in the corner, and this right here in this corner. But before we do that, we have some stamping we want to do here. And if you feel that it will be no problem for you, maybe your stamp, you don't have to worry about, is it too wide? Is there a chance that it might stamp on the pattern paper? Then you can just go ahead, adhere these down, put it on dimensionals, whatever you want to do, and stamp. But if you are concerned that you might stamp on your pattern paper, take a piece of printer paper that is 3 3/4 square. Do the exact same thing we did with the pattern paper, and then put a little bit of temporary adhesive on the back. Doesn't have to be this. You can even just tape it in place with some low-tack tape if you like. And we're going to just put it in these corners. Line it up. Then we'll put the second one down here. And I'm going to get my little planet stamp and some ink. There's the stamp. That comes from Stellar Birthday from Stampin' Up. It's several years old now, but I think it's a fun stamp set I kept because all the little kids in my life, they seem to like space. And let's see, I think that's just a little bit on the inky side. Let's kind of, yeah, okay. So I'm going to stamp one here. And then I usually go up here. I figured out yesterday I can get 4 of these. There we go. No muss, no fuss. We did not have to worry about getting ink anywhere but where it goes. So we'll remove these. And now the next thing we're going to do is I've decided to put the cardstock strips on these, so we'll do that. And I'm going to bring the trimmer back in for just a minute because these strips are 1/8 of an inch wide. You can use 1/4 of an inch wide if it works better for you, but I'm going to show you an easy way to cut the 1/8 inch strips. And I have this piece of pattern paper, or not pattern paper, I'm sorry, cardstock. And it is, I think, let's see, I wrote down, it's 4 1/4 inches wide. So if it's 4 1/4 inches wide, we need to cut, to get 1/8 of an inch strip, we need to put it over, yeah, see, there's the 4 1/4, I'm doing it the wrong way because we need this side over here, so there'll be something to cut. So it's 4 1/4, so we want it to be 4 1/8, so we go to 4, and then this particular trimmer is marked in 1/16 of an inch. So after the 4 1/4, the next one is a 1/16. I mean, there's a 4, then a 1/16, and then 1/8, because that's what we need is 4 1/8. And then you simply, now again, I start the blade somewhere in the center, and it just seems to cut it easier without catching at the top or the bottom. So that's how you get a 1/8 inch strip. Now if I want to cut another one, okay, so now we know this is, that was 4 1/4, so we cut it at 4 1/8, so it's 4 1/8, so now we want to move it to 4. So we move it over 1/8 of an inch. I know I cut from the bottom, didn't I, instead of going in the middle. I was lucky it didn't catch. But, so there we go. That's how I get my 1/8 inch strips. I don't try to go over here and move it to 1/8 of an inch. That just is too troublesome. I have done it, and believe me, it's troublesome. So anyway, we have some strips already cut. Here's one. They need to be at least 5 1/2 inches long for this particular size triangle. So let's just, all we have to do is put some glue right along the edge. And if you have a fine tip glue, I suggest you use that. You could have put like adhesive on the back of the cardstock and cut it and then just peel it off. Or you could put the adhesive on the cardstock. It's up to you, but I just find that this glue, or a fine tip glue, that you can just kind of go along the edge here, I find that's what works best. And I'm just going to get it so that it lines up right along the edge of the paper. I need to scoot it down just a tad. There we go. And now we'll just get some scissors. I had some around here someplace. There they are. I think we need to fix this just a tad. There we go. And then we're just going to cut. We want to cut that part off. And we have our strip. Now we'll do the next one. So we'll just put some glue right along the edge. I want to turn this around this way this time so I can see it a little better. We'll just get that right on the edge. Give it a bit of a press and trim. And now we're ready to assemble the card. Just need to put some adhesive on the back. You can use any kind of adhesive you want. I'm just going to go ahead and keep using the liquid adhesive. That's what I've got out here. We're going to line this up in that corner. Do as best you can. There we go. There's that one. Now we'll get the glue on the back of the second triangle. And we'll line it up down here. There we go. Needs to go over just, I'm having a little trouble with this one. Just doesn't want to go over there. There we go. That's good. So there's that, and now we'll put that on the front of our card base. Make sure it's correct. Just center it on here. And we have our planet. And our greeting. Have a stellar birthday. There we go. And we have our inside panel. And there's our card. Now here it is with the strips and without them. Now you could have made the strips a dark blue, and that would have made them maybe stand out a little more. But there you can see there's a bit of a difference. So there are those. Now, what if you made your card and you're like, oh, I really wanted strips. Well, we're going to add strips to this one, and I'll show you how I do that. Now, what you could do, you could put glue right along here, and especially with this one being up on dimensionals, put the glue on and you could probably just snip the ends fairly easily. But say this wasn't on dimensionals and it was just flat. You could probably still put the glue along the edge, put your strip on, and trim it. But it's going to be harder. So what you can do is you can take one of these pieces that we used as a mask for this card and put it right along here. We're not going to glue it. You can use, if you want to use washi tape or mint tape or anything. I'm just going to use a Post-it note. See where I can find the sticky. Oh, this one's stickier. Just going to put it right along the edge of the printer paper. Then put the sticky part right there and just fold this down. Pick it up. Just kind of make sure it's really in place. Trim it. And come to the other end and trim it. And then this should fit right here on the edge of the card. So let's do that one more time, since we need 2 of them. Well, I had 2 of them. How did I lose my strip? There it is. Okay, get those out of the way. And get our strip, put it right on here. Scoot that down just a tad. And then we'll get our, we'll find a sticky part. Somehow I've lost the sticky part. How did I do that? There it is. Okay. Flip it over. And trim it. And trim it. And then we'll bring, now I find for me, you can do it either way. You can put the adhesive on the strip, or you can put it on the paper. I'm going to try it on the strip, see how I do. And just line it up. Oh, goodness. There we go. Sometimes I have bifocals in my glasses, and I look down sometimes, and it's like I'm looking through the bifocal. So there's that one. And then I think I'll put the adhesive on the card this time. Just right along the edge. Okay, I think it goes this way. Line up my points correctly. And there we go. And that's how you can put your strips on if you make a decision to add them after you have your triangles on the card. So I realized that I didn't put any embellishments on this card. Let's do that real quick, because I have these little stars. I ordered these from Stampin' Up. They're shimmer star foam stickers, because I ran out of these little embellishments. So let's just put a couple of these little stars on here. Bigger one, maybe. Did I put 5? Yeah, I put 5. Yeah, that should do. There we go. So there's that card all finished now. We'll put the glue away. Now for these cards, you'll find on my corresponding blog post the supplies I use, the measurements, the how-tos, all that kind of thing. You'll see pictures. Like I say, you'll see pictures of these before I put the strips on and afterward. You'll see pictures of the cards that we just put together. And you'll find more information and pictures there. And the link to that blog post you'll find in the description of this video. I want to thank you for joining me today. And until next time, stamp happy.